Shalom, all praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Racha Kodash. Double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone, who have taught me this truth, as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy, to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Ratazah. This lesson is edifying and informative. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 5. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, and evil, and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come. The end is come. It watcheth for thee. Behold, it is come. Verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 26. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priest, and counsel from the ancients. In the news, various articles from the RT. Trump warns of new Great Depression. What is a depression? A depression is a period when excess aggregate, which the word aggregate means total, collection, mass, lump, quantity, bundle. When excess aggregate supply overwhelms aggregate demand, resulting in falling prices, unemployment problems, and economic contraction. A depression is a severe and prolonged downturn in the economy. Prices fall, reducing purchasing power. There tends to be high unemployment, low productivity, shrinking wages, and general economic pessimism. Since the Great Depression following the stock market crash of 1929, the governments and central banks of industrialized countries have carefully monitored their economies. They adjust their economic policies to try to prevent another financial crisis of this magnitude. But lo and behold, another great, and I will add unprecedented, which means never known or seen before, financial crisis of this magnitude will soon happen again in the very near future, especially concerning the current news in the economy concerning banks, which I know that you brothers and few sisters have been following along, even as I am. Okay, I have been. So now let's go back to the article. Trump warns of new Great Depression. The former U.S. president blames bank failures on Joe Biden's economic policies. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank (SVB) was the fault of U.S. President Joe Biden's administration, Donald Trump has claimed, warning it could lead to a new Great Depression in the United States. And a part of SVB's collapse was their own stupidity in that they had bought treasury bonds when interest rates were obviously low, but the Fed had warned that they were going to increase interest rates. And instead of liquidating their balance sheets of these bonds, they kept them. And so when the Fed had began increasing interest rates to where we're at now, they're at a loss in very, very, very simple, concise terms. It says SVB, a major lender focused on tech and startups, which was the 16th largest U.S. bank with over $200 billion in assets only a few months ago, imploded on Friday after what analysts called a classic case of bank run. Alarmed over the state of the bank, depositors rushed to withdraw funds, which saw SVB's shares crash and forced the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation (FDIC) to shut the lender down. Now, the FDIC only guarantees depositors $250,000 of their total deposits. However, as of recently, it had been brought out in the news that the government, the feds, had bailed out the bank. Nonetheless, this still leaves a very uncertain environment filled with nothing but fear, because a lot of people have been going to these different major banks, small regional banks, and even these larger ones to withdraw their deposits, their funds. And some have been complaining of missing money. So this man's system is imploding. And we have been warning you, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians for years, beginning with the elder apostles, bishop elders, and elder brothers on down to us, younger men of the great millstone, on down to men of like mind that are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great and abroad. Okay? The nation of Israel, 2/3 of you have been warned, so your blood is off of our hands. The scripture says in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33, verse 33, for when these things shall come to pass, that is prophecy, lo, which means to look, they will come, then shall they know that a prophet had been among them. So obviously the Lord has his prophets amongst the nation of Israel, prophesying the downfall of the kingdom of the wicked, who is Esau or Edom, the downfall of this system. Okay, letting you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians know that you are the Israelites, and that the names of your true powers are Yahweh the Father, Wah, and Yahweh Shai. Letting you know the things to come concerning biblical prophecy. Letting you know that there will be a time of Jacob's trouble. Letting you know that Esau, Edom, the wicked, the sword of the Heavenly Father Yahweh, according to the book of Psalms, chapter 17, verse 13, will cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hands or in their foreheads. Okay? And that mark is the RFID microchip, the MOTB. Let you know that America, which is Babylon the Great, according to biblical prophecy, will be destroyed by 200,000 ICBM nuclear missile warheads, according to the, again, book of Revelation, chapter 9, verse 16, according to biblical prophecy. Okay? Yet you scoff and scorn and mock at the words of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. But the Lord has been putting it in the minds, in the hearts, and the spirits of these Edomites to hasten their agenda, okay, towards their new world order. So expect to see a lot more evils ahead. It says, with what is happening to our economy and with the proposals being made on the largest and dumbest tax increase in the history of the USA, times 5, Joe Biden will go down as the Herbert Hoover of the modern age. Trump wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social. We will have a Great Depression far bigger and more powerful than that of 1929. Continued. As proof, the banks are already starting to collapse. A Trump spokesman later reiterated the claim, telling Business Insider that out of control Democrats and the Biden administration have continued to pathetically try to blame President Trump for their failures, with desperate lies such as the CCP spy balloon, the train derailment in East Palestine, and now the collapse of SVB. This is nothing more than a sad attempt to gaslight the public to evade responsibility, the spokesman noted. Meanwhile, former Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders has blamed a Trump-era banking law for the SVB's breakdown. Well, the SVB really are responsible for their own breakdown because of their own greed, when you look into the economics of it. Let's be clear. The failure of Silicon Valley Bank is a direct result of an absurd 2018 bank deregulation bill signed by Donald Trump that I strongly opposed. Sanders stated on Sunday, referring to the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act signed into law by Trump in 2018. The legislation, which was the most significant change to U.S. banking regulations since the 2010 Dodd-Frank Act, provided tailored regulatory relief. It exempted smaller banks from strict regulations and relaxed rules for big lenders. The asset threshold for systematically important financial institutions was raised from $50 billion to $250 billion. SVB ended 2022 with $209 billion in assets, which means it was no longer classified as a systematically important financial institution. And this concludes the article. So expect things to get worse in the near future. U.S. dollar slides amid banking turmoil in other news. Indian Navy finalizing supersonic missile deal. So not only are we seeing and hearing of economic woes, but we're also seeing that these nations are continuing to beat their plowshares into swords and their prune hooks into spears. That is to say, that they've been taking their economic wealth and using them towards the research, development, and enhancements of weapons of mass destruction, in particular ICBM nuclear missiles, supersonic missiles, hypersonic missiles. Okay, hyper means exceeding, and sonic means sound, exceeding sound. Okay. U.S. banking panic rattles European markets because a lot of people have been running to the banks. There have been bank runs. Pardon me. Charles Schwab leads U.S. financial sector wipeout. Let's read this article and we'll move on to the next Lord's will and then conclude the lesson. The firm's stock drops over 20% as fears of a banking crisis mount. Shares in the U.S. financial and brokerage company Charles Schwab tumbled on Monday as concerns rippled through the financial sector due to the recent collapse of tech and startup-focused Silicon Valley Bank and crypto-related Signature Bank. The Texas-based Financial Services Corporation's stock slumped by more than 20% during Monday trading, representing the company's worst one-day sell-off since April 2000. Every tick is comprised of thousands to millions to billions of dollars. So 20% is a very steep liquidation. We're talking about billions of dollars just, liquidated. in one setting. The wipeout came as the company touted its resilience after a reported 28% decline in average margin balances in February from a year earlier, which is a good thing. But guess what? That don't matter now. In a statement, Schwab's chief financial officer, Peter Crawford, reassured shareholders and clients that cash outflows hadn't accelerated this month compared to February, noting that 8% of the brokerage's deposits are insured by the U.S. government. These outflows reflect a continuation of client decisions to reallocate a portion of their cash into higher yielding cash alternatives within Schwab. He wrote, based on our ongoing analysis of these trends, we still believe client cash realignment decisions will largely abate during 2023. Schwab is ranked 8th among U.S. banks by assets with $7.05 trillion in client funds and 33.8 million active brokerage accounts at the end of last year. Some analysts say it is unlikely that Schwab will face a run like SVB did. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh, due to its robust liquidity. Many banks and companies with related banking entities such as Charles Schwab also have a material amount of fixed income securities on their balance sheet with unrealized losses. In other words, they didn't sell it. They didn't sell for any losses. As recently, rising interest rates have decreased the value of fixed income securities, which sounds like a bunch of bonds. It says Morningstar analyst Michael Wong wrote in a note last week, the sell-off of Schwab's stock was triggered by recent failures in the U.S. banking sector, with 3 lenders going bust in less than a week. Californian-based crypto-focused Silvergate was the first to announce its liquidation last Wednesday, followed by the implosion of Silicon Valley Bank on Friday. Signature Bank was the third significant lender to face ruin in the largest U.S. bank collapse since the financial crisis of 2008. Bank failures have sparked concerns over the health of the entire U.S. banking system, with many other lenders seeing their stocks plunge. And this concludes the article. So the rich men are howling, okay? This is the book of James. And the main reason why they're going to howl is because the Lord is going to destroy America, Babylon the Great. Because they're going to see the smoke over torment going up. According to Revelation 18, you will have men that trade by sea in their ships, watching at the smoke of America's torment, her burning, her destruction, ascending up into the heavens. Okay, according to Revelation, the 18th chapter. Now, before I go to James, the 5th chapter, let's read the book of Ezekiel. I believe it is also 7. Yep, verse 19, it says, they shall cast their silver in the streets, because the time will come when this fiat money, which is extrinsic, because it receives its value through external means, through the public's faith in it. But a lot of countries have been dishing the dollar, so it has been becoming weaker over time. Eventually, it's going to become worthless, and people are going to start to cast it in the street because it's going to be of no use. For a time, people are going to be using gold and silver, which is true money, okay, the Lord's money, gold, silver, land, cattle. But even that eventually in this mass system will be done away with, because everything will be linked to the RFID microchip, the MOTB. And their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh. It says they shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, meaning their minds, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity, because gold have been the ruin of many. You can read that in the book of Sirach, I believe the 30th chapter or the 31st. Now let's get to the book of James, 5th chapter. First verse, it says, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you, because the Lord is going to completely take everything away from them. They're going to go from being the rulers of this planet to mere slaves under the nation of Israel, beginning with the elect. Okay, the Lord's going to destroy the system, cause the system to implode upon itself, to crash, because what's coming will far exceed anything that the world has ever seen in decades. Okay, since the whole, as it is written, since the world was from the beginning, roughly paraphrasing the scripture, according to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 7. It says, and your garments, it says, your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, it is corrupted, blood money, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you. Just like your wickedness. It's just like, eventually it will be exposed. According to the book of Sirach, the 12th chapter, never trust thine enemy, for as iron rusteth, so doeth his wickedness. It says, shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. Right. For who? Job, the 20th chapter, tells us. For the elect, for the nation of Israel, beginning with the elect. Okay. Behold, the hire which is the payment of the laborers, and who are the laborers of the society? The nation of Israel. The Israelites, who have reaped down your fields through their different businesses, their corporations, riches of you kept back by a fraud. Right, so they keep back the payment of the laborers of the society through fraud and deceit. Crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord Yahweh of Sabaoth. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton, undisciplined through their greed. Ye have nourished your hearts. They live fat, they live well, as in the day of slaughter. But little do they know that the Lord has been fattening them up for the slaughter. Read Isaiah 34. It says, ye have condemned and killed the just. And who are the just? The nation of Israel, beginning with the elect. And he doeth not resist you. So your time is coming, Esau. Your time is coming. Okay, so that concludes all the articles from RT that I'll read. I'll read one more article here from newsroom.gy. It says, one citizen, one identity. Government signs U.S. $34 million contract for new ID cards electronic system. The Guyana government on Friday signed a U.S. $34.5 million contract with Veridos, a German-based provider of integrated identity solutions, to implement an electronic identification system. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay. To implement an electronic identification system locally, which will see new identification numbers and cards being issued to Guyanese. The system, when fully implemented, will also help the government with its issues of work permits and other necessary documentation for resident identification. The signing was done virtually and broadcast live from State House in Georgetown, where President Fani Ali, Prime Minister Mark Phillips, and Finance Minister Dr. Ashni Singh were present. A bunch of faking Kuli people in the office. It says also joining virtually were representatives from Veridos and Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed Al Maktoum from the United Arab Emirates, UAE. This is nothing more than gradualism towards the you-know-what. Okay? It says Guyana sought assistance from UAE in October 2021 and was put in touch with two internationally recognized companies that later presented its national identification solutions to the Guyanese authorities. With Veridos selected, the new ID system will be tailored to Guyana and boast a range of features including, but not limited to, greater privacy, ISO certifications, cross-border protection, and acceptance by the International Civil Aviation Organization for International Travel. After a long process, today I'm happy we are at a stage we can sign this contract and move towards implementation, Dr. Ali said. We are advancing our work in the technological transformation to position Guyana to be among those countries that are ready for the new digital age. You see that? It's nothing more than puppies for Esau or Edom. So when they mandate the chip globally, they'll get down with it very easily. It says, Dr. Ali added, it says the system allows for the capturing of an individual's biographic and biometric information, which will be stored centrally but printed on laser engraved polycarbonate material using black and white technology with secure pre-printed designs. Again, this is nothing more than gradualism towards the mark of the beast when they mandate it globally. They're putting everything in place across the globe. It will carry a chip to allow for the integration of a variety of services, but very soon that chip is going to go into people's right hand or in their foreheads, according to biblical prophecy. Many countries have already implemented the electronic identification system as part of their national identification management program to promote e-government and other services. It promotes the idea of one citizen, one identity, assigning a unique national identification number to all citizens. They've also been talking about smart cities a lot in the news. I did a lesson on smart cities. Dr. Ali said, and he pointed, 15-minute cities is what I meant to say, but smart cities too. It says, Dr. Ali said, and he pointed to the expanded benefits for the private sector, particularly the banking sector. Interesting. It says the cards offer fingerprint verification for cardholders, with the current need for proof of address when conducting transactions at financial institutions to soon be eliminated. The system altogether will share data internationally, and that's a key point right there, but focuses locally on an integrated identification system across government agencies and the private sector. So they're centralizing everything globally in all sectors, in private and public. The private aspect of this card is second to none, Dr. Ali added. Pardon me. It says for the implementation of the project, there will be a central ID processing system, pre, mobile, and fixed enrollment stations, delivery stations, laser engraving, and the development of a biometric engine to store records, making it available internationally. There will be other implementation services, including training of administrators and operators, the setting up of a local help desk, and 6 months of assistance following the initial 12-month implementation time frame. The cards will be produced at the company's facilities where there is full European Union security level clearance. This concludes the article. So we know that this is, again, gradualism towards the MOTB. We are all already familiar with the scripture, so I really don't have to get it. But I will reread Ezekiel, the 7th chapter, 25th and 26th verse, and conclude the lesson. Lord's willing, it was edifying and informative. It says, Destruction cometh, Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. So people will attempt to seek peace during the times of destruction, okay, when it will be present. And when they're going to be promised peace and safety, that's when destruction which cometh will come suddenly upon them. It says, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. So there will be no peace. No peace. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor, bad news after bad news, evils after evils. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet. But the law shall perish from the priest. Why? Because the Lord is going to hide his prophets from off the internet and off of the street corners. Okay? All these niggas are going to be left with it, or these leaders which cause them to ear, like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Farrakhan, T.D. Jakes, and all these different false prophets, Joyce Myers, Joel Osteen. That's all they're going to be left with. But the law shall perish from the priests, and counsel from the ancients. So no one won't have the answers for you rebellious Israelites when the Lord completely shuts everything down. So with that, I pray this lesson was edifying and informative, straight to the point. Until the next Lord's willing, I say shalom to the elect. Shalom.